Hey, what's up YouTube? This is College TV, and today I'll be making a video on why forcing religion onto children is child abuse. Now, this is a debate or a topic that atheists and theists debate about quite often, what the role of children should be when it comes to religion. Now, a lot of religions will target children simply due to the fact that children are a lot more easier to manipulate and brainwash than an adult. If you look at the brains of a 5-year-old and a 30-year-old adult, the brains are completely different. The brain of an adult is a lot more developed, while the brain of a child is in its infancy. A lot of times people will say that a child's brain is like a sponge, and if you feed a child a whole bunch of nonsense, and you don't raise a child right, that they'll end up a certain way when they're adults. And that's true. And I think with religion, when you tell them pseudoscience, when you tell them nonsense, and you just constantly, from the cradle to them going on into college, you just constantly force feed that religious nonsense into their brains. I mean, even by the time they're 10, 12, 13 years old, they will be unable to see that, oh, Noah's Ark story. It's the same as like reading about Santa Claus or a Dr. Seuss book. And by the time they're 18, it's even more sad, because that 18-year-old who, if their parents would just allow them to choose and they didn't force nothing on them, they gave them a proper education, whether they're in science, math, they got a good education, they wouldn't believe none of that stuff. They wouldn't believe that, with Mormonism, that the magical undergarment somehow protects you from like physical harm or something. With Islam, they have such a strict male-dominated hierarchy, where it's like women, it seems in Islam, are treated less than animals. If you look at a lot of the Middle Eastern countries, women are brought up knowing that their place in society is to be pretty much subservient to their husband, or just to men in general. And a lot of times sometimes religious institutions do physical abuse, such as the Catholic Church, and molesting children, and how a lot of the fundamentalist Muslims and the Middle Eastern countries would try to blow up girls' schools or something to make sure they don't go to school. But I mean, the mental bondage that religion can have on someone is intense. I mean, if you're brought up into believing in something, it doesn't matter what, it doesn't even have to be a religion. And it doesn't matter if that's proven wrong, but if they're brought up into that, even when they're shown evidence of something in that, and what they're taught not being true, the person who believes that will say, well, that's just tempting my faith because I blindly follow this institution. You see, my personal experience growing up was, I was a Christian. I went to church from middle school, about the 7th grade in middle school, to about my senior year in high school. And I went to a mega church in Akron, Ohio called the Chapel. This church had about 7,000 or 8,000 members, and I'm pretty sure that it's the biggest church within this county. It's about 500,000 people within Summit County. One of the things about the chapel is that it's very, very organized. They have Sunday school from nursery all the way up to college. Now, when I first started going there when I was in middle school, I started when I was about in the 7th grade or so, and I actually convinced my mom and my sisters to start going. And my sisters, who are 9 years younger than me, they're twins, they went to the elementary school service or the preschool service, and they would show me their worksheets they did in their class that Sunday, and they would just tell them stories all the way from Genesis to Revelations of fairy tales, and these children every Sunday would be brainwashed into believing that. And I mean, you can only be told so many times that something that is not real or something that is not factual is a fact, and then you start believing it. And especially at that early age, when they're first starting to develop, it's very hard to later on in life to get them away from that. Now, me, fortunately, I started off when I was in the 7th grade, and I was already like a science nerd. Started off in the middle school service. They would show us videos, vivid imagery of what hell would look like. They would tell us things such as, if you masturbate It's going to lead you to be depressed. I mean, I even have some of the books still at they're at my mom's house though, of some of the stuff they would give us on why you shouldn't masturbate, on why homosexuality is wrong. I mean, they would tell us that if you're a homosexual, not only is that an abomination and it's unnatural, you will never live a happy life. And they'll tell us stuff such as homosexuality is pedophilia, or or homosexuals commit pedophilia, and they'll tell us things such as it was just so much nonsense and bullshit now that I look back at it. But as a child, even as a seventh grader, it was hard for me to reason, because I would always question them. Like, one of the things I liked about the chapel compared to other Sunday school churches was that they would actually break off into discussion where we can actually discuss and debate stuff. We would talk about a certain story in the Bible, and I was always the type of person who would come from the science angle and say, hey, how could this work? Even when I was in the seventh grade. Now, I'm not saying that I was more intelligent than the other children that were going there, but I didn't start off when I was in nursery school or preschool. I was brought up on science. My mom always bought me Legos and science kits, and I was just hooked on Bill Nye the Science Guy and the Magic School. But I just loved science. It was interesting to me. Now, this is the reason why I kept going back and back and back and back to church every single Sunday. I mean, yeah, there was cute girls there, and I was a teenager going through puberty. I won't admit that church does have a lot of good-looking girls there. But in all honesty, the reason I kept going back, the reason I kept allowing them to brainwash me into believing into their nonsense stories was because the fear I had of when I die, that somehow I'll be tortured and burned alive for the rest of my life, was just so overwhelming for me. It's just so hard for me to come to terms with, that it didn't matter how much I learned when it came to science. And Monday through Friday when I was in school, I loved science. But then it seemed like on Sundays, all that stuff I learned, all that rationality and critical thinking, just all that was just compartmentalized. And I was told to believe in all this stuff, and it was just that fear of hell that really made me believe it, or try to believe it. Now, with most religions, they push you on a guilt trip where they make you believe that if you're not part of this religion, if you don't live your life as we instructed you to, that your life is worthless, is meaningless, and people who are not part of a religion are living an existence that is, doesn't have no meaning to it. I mean, I remember them even telling me that if you're a homosexual, that you're living your life as a lie, that it's unnatural, that that gays aren't born gay, gay marriage is immoral. It's just they'll tell us so much stuff that I now know is not right, and I know that treating everyone you want to be treated, treating people the way you want to be treated, is how you should live your life. And they would tell us that if they don't fit the mold of how we think they should live, then they're going to hell. They're going to burn in hell. And then I even remember them even telling us this little short story of why you should believe in Christianity. And they'll tell us that it doesn't matter how many good deeds you do in life. And they'll try to use this little comparison that if this person jumping over a canyon. I know that's weird. People jumping over canyons, but hey, when it comes to religion, anything flies. But they told us this story, and that this person, he did so many good deeds in his life, but without Jesus, he didn't get to go to heaven, and he wasn't able to reach the other side, and he burned in hell for eternity. It doesn't matter if the person was an upstanding citizen who cared for the poor, did so many good things. Without Jesus, without believing that Jesus died on the cross for our sins, then you're burning in hell. And that's so selfish. That's such a human, emotion. It's just so selfish that a all-powerful being who created us with free thought would actually, feel jealous that if we didn't worship him, he would want us to burn in hell for eternity. And in closing, now, to all the parents out there, I'm not saying that just telling your children about religion or taking them to church is bad or is child abuse. When you force a child to believe in this stuff and then you tell them that everything else is, you know, a lie. You tell them science is a lie. If it goes against the Bible, it's a lie. If you tell them it goes against the Quran, it's a lie. And then when you force children to wear a burqa, or when you take them out of a public school system and refuse to teach them science when you homeschool them, and instead teach them creationism and just teach them the Bible all day long, and when you force them to go to church, it's not right. Every child should have the opportunity to choose who they want to be in life and what religion, or choose not to be part of religion. But it seems that when you teach children at such an early age this indoctrination, that it's very hard for them to come to rationalize with reality. And that's all I gotta say. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, comment, and have a nice day.